intent, what?
What's up, everybody? It's the Ill Intent Podcast. Your boy Scott Paul.
Steve shot it.
You already know, man. This is the Ill Intent Podcast, episode 19, I think it is.
Yeah. Episode 19.
I was looking behind to make sure that we had the right
I thought you were
episode.
looking for your camera.
Yeah, man. So
it's been a year.
It's been
a
bro.
year.
Yeah, it's June 6th, man. June 6th, 2021. A year ago today. I should have had this up already, bro. I should have looked this up, but a year ago today, just to get the actual amount of protests.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wearing my Black Lives Matter, my Clarity shirt, because a year ago today was the biggest protested day in world history. Every state in the country,
Yep.
and I want to get the numbers on how many countries around the world protested after the death of George Floyd, and that just inspired a lot of changes, a lot of action, a lot of protests around the world. So definitely want to highlight that, man.
Yeah.
I feel like this day needs to be called something.
Yeah.
You
It
know
needs
what I
to be
mean?
remembered in history.
Yeah,
for
for
sure.
sure. Actually, it's crazy to think about June 6th because actually, when did you start with the podcast? By this time.
So I was brought on. I wasn't talking. I was just filming.
Yeah.
And I think that was
It was right around
this time.
Well, because
that's
even
what
with
I'm thinking.
With the protests that we did in Newton.
Because I had spoke at that time on the podcast. I
Okay.
remember, but I don't think
Before?
No. I think it was literally right around.
Maybe it was right after.
this
Nah,
time.
because I think
I think
that really started me and you working
Yeah.
like we're working.
Yeah, no, because what had happened was we had met each other in November
Mhm.
of 2019.
Yeah.
I want to say at the studio, and I don't know, we just vibed with each other pretty well.
Yeah.
And then I think it was the marches I had seen you posting about, and I just wanted to help or whatever, and I reached out, and that's when we really started working together and getting to know each other better. And I think that's around the time that I was brought into the podcast and everything too. A lot of things happened around this time a year ago.
Yeah, it's crazy to think, bro. I'm getting chills thinking about it, bro.
And it doesn't
a real year.
Realistically, to you, does it feel even close to a year that we've been doing this?
That's the weird thing. It doesn't at all.
At all.
It doesn't feel like a year. I think, it doesn't feel like a year since the podcast. Doesn't feel like a year since all the rallies and George Floyd.
Right.
I think.
Well, it's crazy, right? So depending on what I'm looking at, that happened a year ago would depend on whether it feels like it's been a year. So it feels like the rallies. Well, even those don't even feel like they were a year ago, but they seem like they were longer ago than the podcast.
Word.
That
No,
makes
definitely.
sense.
To say that we were doing this for a year, I'm like, well, because also we've been on and off.
yeah. It wasn't consistent the whole way through.
I think we only did a month full of podcasts once. I think we only hit 4 weeks once.
Right.
So, but now
we're back.
We're
back
doing
to
it
the
for real right
weeklies.
now.
Hopefully, right?
But with everything that happened with George Floyd and the rallies and COVID, and then I feel like you developing a lot of things in your craft, and at that point you were still working another job.
Right. Yeah, I was landscaping.
Yeah, you were landscaping. Now this is 100% what you do.
Yeah.
Me where I was at last year. Last year at this time I was planning on dropping an album, and then George Floyd happened.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of music took the back seat. But over the course of the year, this album that we're about to put out, it's all vibes that were created during during this time. So it doesn't I don't know. It definitely doesn't feel like a year, but kind of back to it. So I like highlighting the things that have changed because it's important for people to know that things are progressing. It's also important for people to know why it's necessary for things to progress. And also, a lot of people, they feel like these rallies don't do anything. They feel like, you guys are just complaining.
Right.
When there's no, there's actual, because that's what everybody's, not everybody, but that's what certain people say. They're like, you know what I mean? It's just that, you guys aren't being specific with what you want. There's no those kind of things. But if you're just going to rallies and hearing people chant, then you're not going to get the specifics.
Right.
There are a lot of specifics that are being not asked for, but that are, being requested. So yeah, I just want to talk about some of the things that have happened over the year since those rallies. I'm sorry. I feel like every time we try to start, we try to make this a music podcast, and
then it's just never is music.
Yeah,
to be fair, we were here last week, and not a whole lot has really been happening. Too much in music.
Yeah,
hasn't been.
Maybe if there has been, y'all could let us know.
Let us know. For sure.
All right. So, state legislators have passed more than 140 new police oversight and reform laws in the past year, creating a trend towards baseline standards for police accountability and behavior. The new laws restrict police use of force, no-knock warrants, and neck restraints. They require officers to intervene when their colleagues use excessive force, and more police disciplinary records have been made available to the public. So these are all good things.
No, those are good steps. It's funny though, when you were reading those off, I was thinking, I was like, these are good. But the one that stood out the most to me was the police now are supposed to intercede if their partner is using excessive force. Like, I feel like that should have been established. Like, obviously you don't need tragedies to teach you things.
All of these are things that are
should have been.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so to an extent. Because so I've got a kind of hot take, I guess, on the whole neck restraints. Yep. So obviously in the case of George Floyd, that is absurd. Absurd. There's no reason to be kneeling on someone's neck for that long and that duration of time and everything. But as someone that has rolled and taken different mixed martial arts and stuff, sometimes you might be put in a position where the neck is the only thing you really can get. Yeah. You know what I mean? So if it's used to transition, that shouldn't be a hold. I agree, that shouldn't be a restraint, but I also don't think a cop should be in fear of losing his life because the only option he had was, all right, I need to restrain his neck, get him to the ground, and then I can assess the situation from that point on. So that's a huge difference from what does go on, because people just stay there and then kill people. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I doubt any of the laws say that you're not allowed to touch a guy's neck.
Yeah, no, you're right.
You know what
you're
I mean?
Right.
And
you're right.
And the reason for that is George Floyd is just one example of the neck being used to kill a black man. That's there's a long history of it. Actually, I'll send you some docs to watch. But in the LA riots in '92, do you know about the LA riots? Rodney King and all that. One of the excuses that the cops used for beating George Floyd, Rodney King like they beat him, was that they didn't want to use a chokehold, because the chokehold was so associated with death in black communities, because it was such a common thing, such a frequent thing that cops would kill, black people by
strangulation.
Yeah, by strangulation. It was happening very commonly. So that's it's already been a thing, and you can always find reasons why it could be necessary for them to use it, but
no, I hear you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So with all of these though,
they should have already been established.
So people feel like, oh, look, all these are happening.
It makes you also question what else is still allowed that shouldn't be.
No,
you know
that's
what I mean?
that's the point. It's people act like, oh, look, they've made all these adjustments, but it's they made all these adjustments because
we realized
in every
that they
state. Not even we've realized it for decades. These are things that have been saying for decades. The only reason these things actually change is because in every state of the country, people were protesting. And all around the world, people were protesting. That's the only reason why these things got changed.
No,
so what else isn't? These were only changed because of that. So what else? What didn't they change?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And that also goes to the point you were making before of the people that are just oh, what are you complaining about this time or whatever? That just shows you it's not just complaint. Action was taken because of these protests.
Exactly.
It's not just a pity party. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Which some people think it is.
No, 100%. So also, the city of Minneapolis has shifted $8 million from its police department to expand violence prevention and mental health crisis response services. Good. So, in this discussion talking about defunding the police, a lot of times it's just redirecting the funds, to go to other services that help people in the ways that police, are supposed to. Right. But Police are also tasked with doing a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And that's like part of the problem. You have the same person who's supposed to stop a robbery, who's supposed to know how to handle a mental health patient who's having an episode. Like it's a lot to ask somebody to do in the same shift.
Right.
You know what I mean? It makes sense. It could make sense to divert those, to other things. Boston cut $12 million from the police department overnight budget to instead. All right, I don't want to go over the specific,
Right.
changes
Variables.
divesting of the funds. I don't know, bro.
But there's been a lot of change.
I want to get bullet points because, bro, there's been like so much, not even just talking about actual police reform, but from like different institutional changes to like last year we saw Bank of America pledge $1 billion to the black community. There's all these corrections and rectifications that are happening right now because of the protests. So instead of having me try to read it, like I implore everybody who's listening and watching right now just to go online and just Google, Bing, whatever your search is, what changes have happened since. You don't like Bing, bro?
No, I was just thinking, I wonder how many people use Bing.
Yeah, no, definitely. For the 6 people out there use Bing, like definitely Bing it. Just what changes have happened since George Floyd's death, since the protests. And just hundreds. There's pages and pages and pages of things, that have changed and things, but also things that still need to change. So definitely want to put a spotlight on that. And also our rally, specifically the one that happened in Newton, it was so special because it was the biggest protest in Newton's history.
So I think it was just like the biggest public gathering, bro.
Yeah. And that
brought all the people out.
And that happened in the county seat of Sussex County, a county that's like 95%, 95% white. There was so much support around the movement. And now there's like this propaganda and like misinformation. It runs so rampant. And right now they're trying to make it seem like if you're dedicated to dismantling like white supremacy, or if you're dedicated to putting a spotlight on these issues of racism, these real issues of racism that are happening all across the country, but like right in our town, you know what I'm saying? Right in our towns, right in our county, but it's being put like, oh, you're saying everybody's racist. You're saying everybody in the county's racist.
Or people also think of what their idea of racism is. So it's just like, oh, it's not like it was in the 60s. What do you mean racism?
People think that racist means that everywhere I go, people just shout the N-word at me.
Yeah. No, that I honestly think that's what some people's idea of racism is. Because like I'll try to have conversations with like people about it, like from where we're from.
Yeah.
And people are just like, yeah, but racism's like, is it really an issue still? I'm just like, yes, absolutely. Bro, I don't expect them to understand because they're white people in Sussex County. That's 95, 98, 99% white. So, like, obviously you see it from your perspective. So, I just don't understand how, like, people have a hard time grasping that racism is still very present and prevalent.
Or just being open to it.
If just because you don't see it, too, doesn't mean that you can't believe someone that experiences it. You know what I mean? Like...
It blows my mind. Like you'll have these like old white dudes that'll be like, racism isn't a thing, and I'm tired of being called a racist. It's like, bro, nobody even called you a racist. And how would you even know?
Right.
If racist.
Right.
Were you the racist, and then you're not racist anymore? So you just, what I'm saying?
Just to frame it for the people too.
Yeah.
So like where we are in Sussex or whatever, at every rally there were counter protesters. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So if you're there to counter a Black Lives Matter, you are like I'm not saying that you're like all those people there were racist, but to deny that there is a racial issue going on in our area when there are people there to counter a peaceful protest just stating that Black Lives Matter.
Well, we said our lives matter and people got real upset.
Right, and that's the thing too. You were very clear. This isn't an anti-police. This isn't an anti-anybody. This is like, and people still just don't get it. They just don't get it or refuse to get it.
Yes.
Collect yourselves.
All right, so I just want to talk about some disparity, and this is all like information that's very easy to find, right? Because when people talk about racism, like racism isn't a thing, because they don't see people shouting the N-word at black people all the time, or something, right? I want to talk about some disparities. So disparities start in the delivery room. Black women die 3 times more often giving birth. 3 times more black women die, right? That's like and my sister put me on game about that, just how differently, like how badly women of color are treated in terms of like in a medical field, because black women are thought of just like being complainers and stuff like that. So when a black woman complains or not taken that seriously, the doctor thinks that the pain actually isn't that bad. She ends up dying, or it ends up being something serious. It's like, it's a common thing, 3 times, right? Black Americans are dying at a disproportionate rate from the COVID-19. You know, black people, we make up 13% of the population. We account for 23% of the deaths. All right, reflecting overall longevity, same thing. We live not as long from the classroom. I'm actually just gonna link things. I'm gonna link things in the
description
everywhere, on YouTube and in everywhere we post the podcast, because I think it's important for people to see this stuff. It's important for people to actually know the numbers, and also we have to keep in mind who we're allowing to define what racism is.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Because like for some people to say that racism doesn't exist when they haven't educated themselves at all on the plights of different people and the racism that exists today, and also they don't put themselves in an environment to be around people who say that they're experiencing racism.
Exactly.
You know, they don't put themselves in that position. So
it's
something I get hot about.
Understandably.
But it's a topic that, as a black man in America, like you can't avoid that, right? Like it's something that you deal with however you deal with growing up as a black kid in America. But for me, it's like, you know, and being in Sussex County, like people just didn't really care. There was no knowledge about it. The education around it was terrible.
Well, something that I realized was a lot, and I can't even say a lot, because to be completely honest, I think my high school, we probably had 10 black students in total, and my graduating class was like almost 400 kids. So it was like a big school, and I never thought about it while I was in high school, but I've thought about it since then. And a lot of the time, anyone was being discriminated against or anything, even if they voiced what they felt and what they thought, they would have 100% been just talking down. It's just like, no, that's not true. You got fucking 15 white kids telling you why you're wrong. So like, what's the point of even trying to tell them what is good? Exactly. And I didn't even realize that until after I was out of high school, because I thought about it. I was like, none of my friends ever like mentioned anything, and then I realized why.
Bro, I had I met with, he used to be the term is called commissioner now, but he used to be a freeholder, same position that I'm going for right now. And
I saw your name on the early ballot, by the way.
Yeah,
I got
bro,
that shit in
I'm
the mail.
on the ballot. Primaries on Tuesday.
Yup.
But yeah, I met with them, and sort of the reason for it was around this talk of racism in America and here. And he was telling me about this guy who I actually knew, or this guy that I know, this black guy who lives in the town. And he was like, yeah, he comes in a room and everybody loves him, and they say, he's a popular guy. He's black.
Right.
And I'm like, have you ever asked him if he experiences racism? He was like, Cause I walk in rooms, people like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People know me, people like me.
People love you, bro. Yeah.
That
doesn't mean that you don't experience racism.
But also, like, because I'm the funny, relatable black guy.
I was gonna say that's the other thing I've heard a million times from white people too. It's just like, oh no, I'm not racist. I'm friends with blank. He's black. It's just like, what the fuck does that mean though? Like, that doesn't.
You know what I mean? But like, so I have conversations with people that like I know their intentions aren't bad.
Right.
but they're contributing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're contributing to the problem. So just educate yourselves, man. It's Google's like right here. It's like it's right in your hand.
So is Bing.
What was it?
I said so is Bing.
So is Bing, bro. It's right there. Just educate yourselves, man. Like, I guess
but that's the problem too, right? With information online is people only believe what they want to believe anyway. They'll see a report and just be like, oh, it's only a .com. It's only a whatever. It's just like, all right, so you need the sacred scroll from 1300 years ago written by fucking like, because that's the problem. Because there are people that can be given the actual information and then just deny it because it's not from a source that they normally listen to. And then they're just like, oh, you're just showing me fake propaganda news. Like, and that just boils down to the person at that point because the information is out there.
No,
you know what I mean?
And you know, like I'm not even worried about those people. Yeah. Like there's the ignorant and there's the willfully ignorant. And honestly, right now, most people are willfully ignorant because again, the information is out there. But I think for a lot of people, they're just like in the bubble. Everybody's busy as fuck. Like this year was crazy for everybody. Everybody has their own personal lives going on. So you can't expect everybody to be dealing with their life and having the time to try to educate themselves, open their mind on other things, even though, you know, they should. And I say this in an upcoming song, but as long as they keep us fighting over crumbs, we're going to be distracted by the bullshit.
Yep.
You know, it's as long as we're doing this rat race where we're just trying to pay rent on the first, we don't have the time or the energy to, you know what I'm saying, be giving empathy to others and trying to understand others and making life better for others.
Yeah. Humanity needs like an overall consciousness alignment where we all are on the same terms on the same day type of deal where it's just like, all right, we all see it now. Like, but I'm a very optimistic person, but like I just don't see with human error how that's even possible. Like with
you know what, bro? It's because, and we talk about this, like certain people have too much to lose by us as a society waking up.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. The second the curtain's pulled, the Wizards' fucking gimmicks are over. You know what I mean?
It's a lot of people losing a lot of money and a lot of power once people wake up.
100%.
You know, because when,
this is something that could go on, like we could talk about literally for days and days.
Because at the end of the day, it's not even really like.
Because you can go to, it is layered because you can literally go into the different avenues of evil and power and corruption. You know what I mean? There's just so many different reasons, like things that very well should be stopped for the greater good of people and never will because of power.
It's intentionally divisive.
Right.
It's like racism. We're all people. Like we know that we're all like human beings. We're all constructed the same way. Our ancestry.
We all need water. We
all
like we're all
the
people.
Same things. Like our our ancestry, like where we come from and stuff that may change certain attributes about ourselves, about us. But for the most part, like
we're all people.
We're you know what I'm saying? We're the same. So do people actually feel a way about others, like hate other people because of the amount of melanin that's in their skin?
Right.
That's not what it is.
Right.
It's all a social construct. And when you really put it, like, why is racism a thing? White supremacy is here because it's all control. It's all control. We want cheap labor. So let's say that these black people aren't humans, so that we don't have to feel bad about being Christians that have slaves.
Right.
This is a Christian nation that had slaves. That was totally cool. You know, you find ways to, like, they're different for this reason, so we don't have to, morally it doesn't fuck with us because they're not one of us kind of thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Well, no, that's 100% what it is. That's why they were declared property. It had to have been for some type of reason for that, because no one would have been okay with owning a person, right? Because someone would have seen that and just been like, oh, then I can buy this woman. I can buy this kid that I want. I can buy, you know what I mean? So they had to make the distinction that they're property.
Exactly. And even how, like, we're taught about enslaved people and how we just call them slaves. They were people. Yeah. They were enslaved people.
Yeah.
But we dehumanize them by calling them slaves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's uncomfortable for people to look at, like, that would have been me. If I was alive 200 years ago, I would have been a slave.
Right. I feel. I mean, all right. This is a. I'm gonna explain my comparison first because it would sound fucking horrible to make this comparison at first. But I feel a similar way with the use of vocabulary and just framing someone a certain way with when you're talking about people that are indicted. You know what I mean? It's always thug, criminal, felon, murderer. Even if it hasn't even reached trial. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They're already a criminal. You know what I mean? And it's just to frame a picture in your head of these people, and so you're just like, good, they deserve it. You know what I mean?
They deserve it. Or when it comes to the enslaved people here in this country, it's just you don't think of them as people. So it's not, you don't think that there were millions of people. Like the Holocaust were millions of people that were put in chambers, and now we're, you know what I'm saying, done that way. There were people, but like they were slaves. You know what I mean? In America, there were slaves. And like, I don't know.
Right. No, I 100% get what you're saying and agree with it completely because even in the school system, you're not even like, they're referred to as slaves.
They're slaves.
They're slaves. The slaves were brought over in whenever.
Like, cause I remember being in second grade learning about slavery, right? Like I was, or third grade. Yeah, I think it was third grade. Mrs. Frascati told us how she was like, Christopher Columbus, how he started slavery. No, pretty much by when he came to Hispaniola, like that's when the whole slave trade in America started, was when Christopher Columbus came to Hispaniola. And they like genocided the indigenous people there pretty much, and then brought Africans over, you know, to do the work. And that's like modern day slavery. That's really where it started. And I remember thinking in like third grade, bro, we get a fucking day off for this fucking guy, you know what I'm saying? And like, but nobody, it was just like a thing that was taught. Like nobody in the class had a reaction. Like it was.
Bro, I wasn't even taught that.
I think definitely even my teacher to say that, even how she said it, it wasn't because it wasn't in the textbook.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah. I just learned about the discovery of America, and then we had Thanksgiving, and now there's a whole lot less Native Americans.
You know what I'm saying?
That was pretty much my education on it.
And it's like,
it's crazy. And the problem is the people that have the power to change it and make things the way are the problem, so they're not going to, for the most part. And that goes into everything.
Not
with
for the
racial
most part,
issues.
Bro, that's what it is.
Yeah, bro. I was heated, actually. I had a conversation with my dad the other night because it was my sister's birthday, so I was over there. And shout out, Amy. Happy birthday. But we were talking about, like, the sex trade and everything. Mm-hmm. And I started to get amped up. I was like, well, nothing's ever going to fucking happen because the people that can stop it are the ones that are participating and the ones that are most guilty of everything that's going on. So it's just going to keep, like, just the fire that was lit inside of you. Like, I feel a similar way about the sex traffic thing. It's just like, I literally feel like my blood boiling, but I also know that, like, the people that could stop it are the ones doing it. So it makes it even worse. Like,
it makes your blood boil because it's like, we know for a fact that child sex trafficking, you know, sex trafficking is going on. Like, we know that for a fact. It's going on in this country. It's going on around the world. And, like, it gets no press, and we know exactly why.
And that's the thing. The second it gets the press, it's swept under the rug, bro. Know about what's going on with the Epstein trials?
Nah.
Yeah, me neither.
Well, he's
the whole point. No, but everything he was involved in, bro.
True,
why
like
isn't it still not being investigated?
No,
he's dead, so we're good. We don't have to think about it anymore. Then that's the game they play.
That's the game that they play. It's like
I didn't forget about everything. Just because he's dead doesn't mean that he was the only person. What about his whole fucking list? Like, we're just gonna forget because the head guy, the guy that you're telling us is the head guy, is dead.
The guy that you're telling us is the head guy that happened to kill himself.
That happened to kill himself while on suicide watch or something.
Because the guards were eating a sandwich and the camera was off.
Like, come on. And that's the thing. These aren't even conspiracy. This isn't us speculating. Like, this is what happened. Facts
of what we know.
And we're just gonna forget.
And people, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
There's a whole lot of evil.
Frederick Douglass has a quote. He says, "Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. Find out just what any people will quietly submit to, and you will find out the exact measure of injustice and wrong which will be imposed upon them. And these will continue till they are resisted with either words or blows, or with both." The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress. That's a lot of words to say. If you want something done by people who have a lot of money and a lot of power, you have to force them.
Right.
Because they're not going to do it just because you want them to or because it's
Right.
the right thing to do. People don't concede power. People don't concede money unless you make them.
Yeah.
Word.
We need change.
Yo, people are going to hear
Whole
my
lot of
album. They're going to be
change.
like, wait, what? Like, bro, I always think about the people who don't know that I make music or whatever. Like, that, you know, that I come
yeah.
upon. Like, when they hear me talk about this shit, like, it's so... I don't know. But I mean, for both of us, bro, it's...
What?
I don't know, bro. I think a lot about and I guess because like while we started this podcast, the reason for doing this podcast was to shine a light on like different like Jersey artists
Right.
and like stuff going on in the industry and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But doing this podcast at the same time that this crazy shifts are going on
Yeah,
in the
how
world.
can I focus on the Jersey music scene when this shit's going on? Like, obviously
Yeah.
I still do, but
Yeah, well, that's what the work that we do is like what our heart fucking like. We love doing it. We love the people that it surrounds us with,
Right.
the access that it gives. Like we live a real fun lifestyle,
Yeah.
you know. But as far as things that we what like different motivations, it's like we want to make the fucking world better.
yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason I love art, bro. It's you have a platform to send a message. Like it gives you a way for your voice to be heard when
Yeah.
people might not have been knowing what they were signing up for.
Facts.
You know what I mean?
Facts,
like,
yeah.
People could just be like, "Oh, I wonder what Steve's up to. Let me watch his video or photography," and they're just like, "Oh shit, he's saying something."
Exactly.
And that's art.
And that's art. That's art. Shit.
I was
Well,
gonna say, what time do you want to go to? Because we gotta run to Philly
yeah,
today.
we gotta get to Philly, man. We got a last minute little thing to
With the
Philly.
guys.
That's gonna be dope. We're gonna link up with the Itchy crew down there. So,
Yeah.
bro, real talk. I just want to make sure we keep this thing going every
Yeah.
week. You
No,
know,
absolutely.
and obviously it being June 6th, super important day.
Important day.
So, wanted to be here. But
Yeah.
it was a slow week in music.
Yeah. So all you artists out there, drop some fire for us to listen to so
drop
we
some
could talk
fucking
about it.
Fire, yeah. We want to talk about it.
Yeah, we want to.
Nah, there's a lot of music coming out this.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a lot of music coming out this summer, and I actually want to get back to like shouting out Jersey
Artists
and
and
artists in
everything,
general,
yeah.
but definitely like because Jersey's been moving, man. Like,
Oh yeah, Jersey's on like, bro. Jersey's just quiet right now. You know what I mean? I feel like Jersey's just quiet right now for reason, for very good reason.
well, I think now that things are about to open up, you're about to.
Oh, it's gonna be stupid, bro.
Yeah.
Blaze just had a show. Shout out Blaze. Blaze
Yup.
PNB, great in his music video coming on the 12th. Let's drop
I saw
it.
that.
But
Yes, sir.
yeah, he just performed at a show last night with like 500 people.
Fire.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, it's lit.
outside's opening up again.
It's lit. Yeah, we about to get real active. Well, let's get down to Philly, man. Thank you
Yes,
everybody
sir.
for tuning in. You got anything else for the people?
Nah, thank you. Just appreciate the support. Keep on tuning in. Only good
Always.
things from here on out.
Bow. Till next time, people. Still in 10 podcast. See you next week.